When you are constantly available, your value collapses into a commodity. The human mind never craves what it easily possesses. Overpresence projects desperation, but a calculated withdrawal at the moment of peak interest creates a psychological vacuum. Strategic withdrawal is not retreat. It is the art of multiplying your leverage through leveraged absence. Welcome to strategic withdrawal and phantom value. The availability paradox states that the more accessible you are, the less valuable your time, attention, and contributions become. When you respond instantly to every request, remain continuously present in every discussion, and make yourself endlessly reachable, you unintentionally communicate a lack of competing priorities. Your presence becomes an expected background metric rather than a rare, high-value asset. Strategic withdrawal flips this dynamic by deliberately injecting scarcity into your interactions. By withholding constant access, you alter the psychological economics of the relationship. People begin to treat your time as a limited resource that must be earned rather than consumed at will. Scarcity naturally amplifies perceived status. When your attention is rare, every word you speak carries significantly greater weight and impact. Timing is the defining variable of strategic withdrawal. Withholding access when interest is low simply looks like disinterest or failure. Calculated access withholding requires you to engage deeply, deliver immense value, build maximum intrigue, and then step back precisely when the opponent is most engaged. When you exit a conversation or pause a negotiation at its emotional peak, you leave the target in a state of unfulfilled tension. Their brain craves closure, keeping thoughts of you and your offer spinning in their mind long after you have physically or digitally departed. This psychological vacuum forces them to process your value in your absence. Instead of you pushing for a resolution, their own cognitive need for completion drives them to reach out and pull you back into the room. Behavioral economics confirms that the pain of losing an opportunity is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. The loss-aversion trigger leverages this deep-seated fear to transform passive, hesitant negotiators into urgent pursuers. When an opponent feels that an offer is permanently anchored on the table, they delay decisions, demand concessions, and shop for alternatives. However, the moment you subtly signal that the opportunity is fleeting or that your attention is pivoting toward other competing options, their perspective shifts from evaluation to preservation. The fear of missing out, FOMO, overrides their analytical reluctance. By stepping back and allowing the threat of loss to become tangible, you force the opponent to chase the deal before the window of availability closes permanently. When a negotiation stalls due to posturing or indecision, pushing harder only increases friction. The silent takeaway is the high-status practice of quietly removing your proposal, time, or energy from the table without frustration or theatrical anger. You simply state that the current terms may no longer be viable or that your schedule requires you to reallocate focus elsewhere. Because this withdrawal is executed with cold, polite detachment, the opponent cannot accuse you of emotional manipulation. Instead, they realize that their hesitation has cost them leverage. The dynamic flips instantly. Rather than you trying to convince them to accept terms, they must now rebid and offer improved conditions just to bring you back to the negotiating table. Amateurs believe that to prove high value, they must constantly explain, justify, and showcase their credentials. This over-justification actually reveals an underlying insecurity, a desperate need for validation. The phantom value effect operates on the opposite principle. Perceived demand is created by what you leave unsaid. When you present terms or state a position with extreme clarity and then fall silent, you project an implicit reality that your value is so self-evident it requires no defense. Refusing to over-explain signals to the opponent's subconscious that you have alternative options, massive demand, and zero dependency on a single outcome. The opponent's imagination fills in the silence, assuming you possess unseen leverage, exclusive resources, or competing high-stakes offers. By mastering the art of sparse, confident communication and strategic silence, you build an aura of phantom value that elevates your perceived authority far beyond what aggressive self-promotion could ever achieve. The ultimate evolution of strategic withdrawal is converting temporary pullbacks into a permanent baseline of absolute sovereignty. Strategic presence is not a game of temporary tricks. It is an overarching operational philosophy where your time, energy, and cognitive focus are treated as non-negotiable, high-value assets. High-status strategists build boundaries that protect their availability naturally. They do not overcommit to meetings, they do not participate in low-yield arguments, and they never surrender their schedule to the urgent demands of others. When you anchor this sovereign baseline, people naturally adapt to your operational cadence. They adjust to your timeline, prepare more thoroughly before speaking with you, and value every interaction as a privileged exchange. You cease to be a participant fighting for attention in someone else's arena. You become the anchor around which the dynamic revolves. By mastering invisible urgency and leveraged absence, you command maximum respect while expending minimal energy, securing strategic control framed entirely by your unshakable autonomy.